Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for coming to my second session on the Docker track, Docker 102. In this session, we're going to learn how to effortlessly deploy any applications to your cloud server. I'm just curious to see, what is your favorite software you use every day? Let me know in chat because I would love to hear about it. For me, I use Google Drive every day. That's where I store all my files. That's where I store all my photos from my phone. And that's where I collaborate with other people. What about you? What's your favorite software? It can be any software. Maybe it's Apple Notes. Maybe it's Notion if you use it to take notes. Maybe it's YouTube. You watch videos. Yes, I was just about to say YouTube. Maybe it's a password manager. I use Bitwarden, which is an amazing password manager I use to keep track of all my passwords. Maybe it's GitHub. Do you publish your code to GitHub? And yeah, let me know. Yeah, thanks for your comments in chat. I definitely watch YouTube every day as well. So thank you so much for pointing that out. I guess we share the same passion. But let's get started and jump into the first slide here. And let me get rid of this banner. I should really change my fun fact since I just used it. But my name is Wei. I am a coach here at Major League Hacking. And my fun fact is I am studying to become an FAA certified pilot. That is a drone pilot, right? I still think of it as a legitimate pilot because I'll get an FAA license and everything. So I'm super excited about that. Thank you, 404, for coming again to my second session. Cool. So if you haven't already, please be sure to check in. Let me see if I can find the link. Here's the check-in link. I'm going to put it in chat. Check in at. I would love for you to get that point. So thank you so much for that wish. I can fly. Okay. This is about 5 o'clock my time, and the sun is slowly setting. So my face might get a little bit darker as the sun flies away from us. So cool. So be sure to check in if you haven't already. I would love to get you the point. Now, this is the second part of our Docker series. This is a session where we're going to learn how to deploy any app to your cloud server. So easy. We can probably deploy like 5 or 6 in just under an hour. So bear with us. And with that, let's jump into it. So earlier today in our one-on-one session, we created a cloud server, right? And we installed Docker. Let me just find my terminal here. We installed Docker, and we spun up a Portainer instance. That is the Docker community or Docker management dashboard, Portainer community edition. And this gives us a very good overview of everything you need to know about your local and maybe in the future remote Docker servers or Docker Swarm clusters. We won't get into that, but for now, we have this on our computers. We have Docker on our cloud server, and we're able to see all the containers that are running, all the images, all the networks, and the volumes. So these are some of the key concepts within Docker. We don't have to get into all that right now, but definitely worth a read. I recommend reviewing some of the resources I shared in the slides from the last session if you want to learn more. All right, thank you so much. I'm really hoping I don't crash my drone. It's really, really expensive. My heart would bleed if that happens. I would love to touch the clouds. I would love to touch the clouds. I heard like some of those drones, you can fly up to like 1,500 meters or something, really right through the clouds. Okay, so let's get into it. With Docker, you can deploy virtually any application so easy, like with just a couple lines of code, to be honest. So for this session, we're going to learn how to deploy some applications. We have our Docker server up, we have our Portainer up, and under Portainer, there's actually a section called app templates. These are some built-in apps that Portainer supports and makes it super easy to deploy with just a couple clicks. So let's just look through them and see what are some of the options. And afterwards, we will kind of vote on what type of application we want to deploy, and we'll do it together. If we're looking at this page here, we can see a ton of very useful operating systems. Ubuntu. You can deploy a container registry if you want, Docker Hub. You can deploy a web server. You can deploy databases. You can deploy GitLab, object storage, Minio. Someone asked about S3 in the last session. Minio is basically a self-hosted alternative to S3 if you would like to host your own object storage server. Here's another one, databases and blogs, blogging platforms, if you haven't heard of them. Jenkins, which is a CI/CD tool that is very, very helpful, useful, and a ton of other really good built-in, templates that Portainer is showing us here. So for now, let's deploy a blog just for fun, just to see how it works. Let's deploy Ghost. I've heard of this before. Ghost is an open source blogging platform, and if we want, we can actually go to GitHub and search for Ghost blogging, and here it is. You can look at their project. You can look at the screenshots and demos of Ghost. But we don't have to worry about all that, like all the installation steps. All we have to do is go to Portainer, app templates, Ghost, and pick a name. Ghost blog maybe, and deploy. Okay. And we'll see this is deployment in progress. We'll just wait a couple seconds. And what it's doing now is it is pulling the Ghost Docker image from the Docker Hub, and it's going to deploy it on our server. So if we look at Docker images, you'll see we have some of the images from before. But now, the page is refreshed into here, and we have a Ghost blog running. Fantastic. And then if you keep looking here, you'll see published ports. So this means Ghost is running on this port, and we can actually go to this port and try to access Ghost. So the way you do that is you first find your IP address. In my case, it is in the URL here. It's also on my droplet IPv4 here. And now I have the port. And refresh. Oh, the port is gone. What happened? So let's go into here and just double check what happened to the port. Network. Select the network. Bridge network. Okay. And we can actually go to our Docker PS and take a look at the Ghost blog. And as you can see here, Ghost blog has port 32777. Okay, that is the port Ghost blog uses. So let's try to get to it. 32777. All right, great. Can be accessed. Let me just refresh. Why don't I join another network? Just leave network. Okay, Ghost doesn't like me, I guess. Recreate. Wait, let me just recreate Ghost and see what happens. 32778. 32778. Okay. I think there are some bugs with the image, maybe. That's why it is not coming up. But we can look at that by looking through the logs, debugging, right? Use custom command. Container logs. Okay, so I know what's happening. If you look here, Ghost is actually trying to connect to a database, and it failed to connect to the database. And that's why Ghost is failing, because Ghost needs a SQL database to run. Okay. In that case, we really can't use Ghost for our application. We really can't use the application templates since it doesn't include all the components. So why don't we go to Ghost's homepage and see if there are ways we can, deploy it ourselves. And we can actually Google that by just searching for deploy Ghost using Docker. How to install Ghost with Docker. Installation steps. Okay. And here is an example. So Ghost has an official Docker image on Docker Hub, and it has a helpful command here, how to use this image, and we're just going to run this command to deploy Ghost. So it seems like it's a lot easier to deploy it using the command line because it has official support. So let's try it and see if it works. Custom port. We do need to provide a custom port so that we can access it. So let's do this. And you can see the port is 3001. But first, we need to remove the previous one, that Ghost container that we have already spun up. Docker remove. Some Ghost, we named it. We first need to stop it, and then we can remove it. All right, next we can run this new command that we found here. If you would like to access the instance, add some port mapping, and run. Now, if we do a Docker PS, we should see Ghost running, and it's listening on port 3001 as expected. With that, let's go to our container IP and then go to port 3001. And now we have access to Ghost. This is my blog. I can sign in. I can read stories, write blog posts, and this is accessible from anywhere in the world. You can actually go to it if you want to see my new blog. All right. So that is the first application we deployed, a very lightweight Ghost blogging platform. A very good question we have in chat here. What is port mapping? Okay, if you remember from the last session, Docker containers are kind of enclosed containers of the application running within like a container, right? In order for the outside world to access it, you need to map the port. Let me actually find a visual from my last session and see if I can just pull it up. Okay, here is a good example. I was just Googling port mapping. So this is a good example. Okay, if you look at this picture, you could have multiple containers. So in this example here, we have an Apache container and we have a MySQL container, right? And then they listen to different ports. So Apache might listen to this port, MySQL might listen to this port. But these are essentially self-contained boxes within your computer. In order for the outside of the world to access Apache and MySQL at specific ports, you have to specify a port mapping. So that is the case here. In the command that they provided, they're saying the outside of the world should be able to access port 3001 on your cloud server, and the cloud server should map that port to the port 2368 within the Ghost container. So it kind of bridges the gap, right? Bridges the two ports. Any user in the world can now come to our port 3001, and the port 3001 is now forwarded to the Ghost container. So hopefully that helps a little bit. Let me know if you have any other questions. And let me change my banner as well while I'm at it. So we just deployed the Ghost blogging platform in a few minutes, right? This just shows you how powerful Docker is. Makes it super, super easy to deploy applications. So I have some ideas here. We just did number one. What are some of the other things that you would like to deploy on the cloud server? We'll probably do a few of them. Please message in chat. Give me a number that you'd like. We'll do the first one anybody posts in the chat. What's your favorite out of this list? We can do polling. We can do photo image hosting, so you can upload a picture. Anybody else can look at your gallery. Uptime monitor is is an application that monitors if a website is accessible. Cloud Drive is my favorite because I use Google Drive daily. You can also self-host your own Git server, URL shortener, note-taking software, task management board, VS Code in the cloud, time tracking, and password manager. So if you don't mind, look through the lists and send me a number. What is the favorite self-hosting app that I should start with? Let me know what you think. All right, so we have a winner here, number 7. So thank you so much for taking the initiative. If anybody else has any suggestions, please keep posting. We will go through them and we'll be sure to deploy the application that you'd like to self-host. All right, with number 7, that is a URL shortener. I would like to share with you a fantastic GitHub repo called Awesome Self-Host, I believe. Awesome Self-Host, self-hosted. And I'm going to post this in chat. I was just looking through the list earlier. For URL shortener, so this is a GitHub repo that has tons of self-hosting options of like regular or common applications. And these are all free. And a lot of times they are open source as well. So those are the best parts of this, right? You get to control what application you're installing on your server. You get to control what you use from day to day. You get control of your data. Nobody else has access to your data. So self-hosting is definitely an amazing option for enthusiasts out there. So with that, I'm going to scroll down and look for URL shortener. URL shorteners. And under URL shorteners, you can see a ton of amazing resources. So we have, these are all open source projects, by the way. So I'm just going to look through them and see which one I like the best. Here is a modern URL shortener, and that supports custom domains. It also supports Docker, and it's written in Node.js. That sounds pretty good. So let's open that in the back. Just Shorted is also looking pretty good. Lightweight URL shortener. I like lightweight a lot. So if I open 3, let's just go through and take a look. This is a very clean. I like the design for this URL shortener. Cut. Okay. Now we have Just Shorted. Let's look at the demo, see if they have any demo. Okay, there's no demo, so I'm not going to use this for now. And here's another option, LSTU. We can look at wiki, official instance. Okay, this is also looking pretty good. So what do y'all think? Should I go with cut or should I go with LSTU? What's your favorite? Let me know in chat which one I should go with. All right, looks like cut made the cut. So thank you so much for recommending that. Let's just go for it, okay? And just look through the documentation here. What I'm looking for is like a Docker deployment guide, right? So let's just go through key features stack. Here's the software stack of their application, manual, Docker. And here, this is perfect. It gave me 3 steps. I need to download the Docker Compose and the docker.env files. Rename this and fill it properly, and simply run Docker Compose. All right, so why don't we do that real quick? Download Docker Compose. I'm going to just right copy and copy link address, and I'm going to download it. Before then, let me just clear the page and create a new folder called cut. mkdir cut, and I cd into cut. I'm going to use the shortcut there, and then download the Docker Compose file. You can use wget to download it. Okay, so now we have the Docker Compose file, right? And the next step is to download the docker.env file. So let's do that real quick. So now I have both docker.env and docker compose.yaml files. First step is done. Now let's go to the second step, rename the docker.env to .env and fill it properly. So here are some configurations, right? So why don't we do that real quick? And the way to rename it in the command line is mv.docker.env to env. And I'm going to use nano. I don't know if it's available. Okay, it is available. So I'm going to use nano. Port, it's running on port 3000. Site name is cut. I'm going to say way private cut. Default domain, we're going to use the IP address for now because we do not have a domain name hooked up. And let me just copy the IP address. Link length 6. Why don't I just do 3 for now, since only I'm going to use it. Postgres database details. We're going to leave everything as default for now. Do I have to add it? Let me see. Docker Compose. Yeah, so as you can see here, the DB credentials, when you use Docker Compose, you can skip these. I'm going to skip them. And then we have admin, disallow registration. All right, there are so many environment variables here to fill. I'm going to put my Gmail for now as the admin email. And recap, we can just delete that for now. We don't need to worry about that for the demo. And lastly, I'm not going to include the emails. I don't know if this is required, so we'll just try it out. Okay. With that, all we have to do is go to the third step, execute cut. You simply have to run docker compose up -d. So let's do that. We can actually take a look at the Docker Compose file we downloaded. And as you can see here, we have cut. It's using the cut official image, Docker image. It's using Redis, and it's using Postgres. Now I'm going to do Docker Compose up -d. Do note that the latest version of Docker has Docker Compose built into the command, so you just need to do Docker space compose. In previous versions, it was not included, so you had to install a separate command line tool called docker-compose. So I'm just going to run that, and as you can see here, we're pulling cut, Redis, and Postgres. Those are the three services used by the cut self-hosting software. And let's just wait a little bit until everything is pulled. Okay, very good. By the way, you can run this locally as well on your computer. You don't really need a cloud server for this, but we're just having some fun on the cloud server, putting it to work. Okay. It's a little bit slow for the initialization. With a lot of these software, they have some like scripts that gets run on first initialization. As you can see here, we have some progress dots there, but looks like everything is created. Perfect. So if we go to Docker PS now, we should see cut, Postgres, and Redis. Those are all coming from the cut project. And cut is listening on port 3000, as you can see here. With that, I can just go to my IP address, port 3000, and access cut. And so this is actually running on my domain now. With just a few minutes, we were able to deploy cut super easily. And let me actually grab my checking link and shorten it and see if we can make that work. Where's my checking link? I can't find my checking link now. Let me go to the Global Hack Week schedule. And here's my check link. All right, now I can go to cut, paste your long URL, shorten. Cool. Now I have a short URL for checking. Of course, this looks a little bit ugly because we're just using our IP address and then a port 3000. But if you come to my next session, we will learn how to securely access apps using custom domains through Cloudflare so that you can actually use an actual short domain for the URL shortener. And if I try out this link here, I should be redirected to my I should be redirected to the checking page. And it looks like it is not being redirected, so let's just refresh and see what's up. Oh, because it's HTTPS, So definitely we need to remove the S from the HTTP because we're not secured just yet. And voila, we're now redirected. So we just deployed a URL shortener in like 10 minutes or so. Super easy. There are a couple steps to get it to work with an actual domain name and HTTPS, but as is, we're able to shorten URLs. You can actually also log in if you'd like, sign up, look at reports of various links, and see how many clicks they have and things like that. So super easy way to deploy an open source application. Cool. All right, thank you so much, Jeffrey. All right, let's go back to our list now. What is the second application we should deploy together? Can we self-host this and let it be available online? For sure. This is what we're here for, right? So we want to deploy an application that anybody can access yourself. I mean, you can restrict it to yourself, but you can also make it so that anybody can access the app using your domain name. And that's what we will cover in session 3. So I think we had, is this SLZ Army? Thank you so much. Let's do number 4. Number 4, we have an uptime monitor. That's what we're going to deploy next. But if you have any suggestions, please post them in chat and we'll do that next. So uptime monitor is like you can set up a monitor of a specific website and you can monitor when it's going to, when it comes down, and you can kind of monitor and get alerted, right? If it's your website, you want to make sure users can access it. So this is very useful. I use it a lot for my personal sites as well as for work. But all the solutions cost money, or they have, a lot of limitations. That's where self-hosting comes in. That's the advantage of self-hosting. We can go back to top and look at uptime monitors. Let's grab it from the list here. We have status pages, uptime pages, right? And one of the ones I wanted to use was Uptime Kuma. It is a self-hosted website monitoring tool like Uptime Robot. I have used Uptime Robot before, and I really like it. So let's just click into that project and see what it looks like. Okay, this is very slick, actually. I like the dark mode. You can see, you can check ports, you can check different websites, you can even check MySQL if your database is up and things like that. And if we go to their demo page, you can see that, I have to sign in, so let's not do that yet. Let's just deploy it ourselves and see what it looks like. And they have a super handy Docker installation guide right on their README page, right? It makes it super, super easy. And it's just a one-liner. With that, let's copy and paste it here. One thing to keep in mind is we are using port 3001 for our Ghost already, right? For our Ghost blogging platform. So we need a different port here. Why don't we use 3002 maybe? And see if we can just deploy it on that port instead. So let's do that. So now we're mapping 3002 on the cloud server to the container Uptime Kuma. And with that, I'm going to press enter. This is going to pull the container image just like before. And after the cloud server, the Docker engine gets a hold of the container image, it's going to spin up a container. Okay, and as you can see here, it is done. I can do a Docker PS one more time, and we can see that the text is wrapping a little bit, but we do have Uptime Kuma. Created 6 seconds ago. It's listening to port 3002. So now if we go to our IP address, let me grab it one more time. Here's the IP address, HTTP:302. And we have an Uptime Kuma instance installed right away. And I'm going to pick a username. And with just a few steps, we have a full-fledged uptime monitor available to us. And I can add, making sure Global Hack Week is up. I can check every 60 seconds. I can even configure the HTTP request types, retries, more advanced features as well, and save. I do need a name, Global Hack Week site. And with that, we have a monitor up. We'll come back to this. We'll check back. We're hitting Global Hack Week every minute, so we should have some data shortly. We already have one green bar, 100% uptime. Cool. You can access it too if you'd like and sign up for. I don't know if you can sign up for an account. Okay, so this is a single user account. Since I signed up, you can't sign up for another account. Guess that is one limitation for this. Okay, we do have a question in chat. Why can't we share ports? The reason we can't share ports is because each port can only be bound to one process or application, or the container in this case. You can't let traffic in who wants to go to different containers. If you would like to use the same port, a lot of people use what's called a reverse proxy. You can actually set up a web server and then kind of direct traffic to different containers if you'd like forward. If people are visiting uptime.wayonstream.co, for example, that domain name, then direct all the traffic to the Uptime Kuma's container at port 3002. If you're coming from blog.wayonstream.co, for example, then direct traffic, HTTP traffic, to the Ghost blog container. So there are things that can do, support that, but you do need a specialized software like Nginx, like a website for web servers, or some additional like firewall or routing container or process that can handle that redirection. Hope that helps a little bit. I don't know if I was too clear on that, but do let me know if you have any other confusions. Okay. With that, we have a chart here. We have 100% uptime, and we also have some metrics. All right. Perfect. Thank you so much. I'm glad it helped. So as you can see, as we are getting more and more comfortable with deployments, the deployment also depends on the project, right? How well the documentation is. Some of these deployments can be quite fast. We deployed it in less than 5 minutes. So we've done blogging now, we've done Uptime Monitor, and we've done URL shortener. Is there any other app that you would like to see us deploy together? Anybody? Personally, I would like to do a cloud drive. But I'm open for any other suggestions as well. In the meantime, we can take a look at our Portainer, which is the Docker management software. And as you can see here, we have all these containers that we have spun up, like the Ghost container, like the Cut. I know Cut actually spun up 3 containers, including a database, so it could take a lot of memory. I'm just going to stop it for now and leave some room, leave some memory for some of the additional software we're going to deploy. All right, we have a suggestion, password manager. And we have VS Code in the cloud. I love VS Code in the cloud. I'll have to show you right after Password Manager. So thank you so much for your suggestion. We are going to do a Password Manager. And what is the first step? The first step is go to our awesome self-hosted repo and take a look at Password Manager. Let's see if there is a category for it. Password Manager is perfect. So there are a ton of password manager options out there. My favorite is Bitwarden, of course, because that is the one I use personally. But as you can see here, there are a number of other options. For now, I am going to use Vaultwarden, which is like an open source implementation of Bitwarden API. Let's just take a look at it. Vaultwarden. This is an alternative implementation of Bitwarden APIs. All right. Cool. And as you can see here, they also have a Docker installation section on their README, right? We just need to pull, and we just need to run this command. Makes it super easy. So why don't we do that real quick? First, we're going to pull the image. And we're going to copy the second line here to deploy Vaultwarden. Okay, I'm using a proxy example. Okay, so it looks like our image has been pulled, and let's just run this real quick. I know this is listening on port 80, so let's just do that for now and see what happens. Okay, so Vaultwarden has been installed. All you have to do now is to use it, right? Okay, so with Vaultwarden, it is actually a little bit more involved because it involves password security, right? So you have to make sure you have the correct password or correct certificate, SSL certificate, as well as the HTTPS protocol enabled. With that, I'm just going to go to port 80 since we installed it on port 80. Oops. Okay, and we have Vaultwarden. This is the password manager that we have. And I'm going to use my email address. Pick a random master password. And as you can see here, the browser requires HTTPS to use the web vault. So there's a little bit more setup to do for Vaultwarden. We are actually going to be covering like how to secure your web app in the Docker 103 session. So why don't we use this password manager as an example in our next session. But as you can see here, everything is already installed, right? So all you have to do is make sure you route the traffic through a secure HTTPS connection, and you should be able to use it. So thank you so much for that suggestion. And let's go to number 10, VS Code in the cloud. This has been my dream, right? I hate carrying a heavy computer everywhere I go. I would love to have like just a thin, super light notebook computer and connect to the cloud and have everything run in the cloud. And VS Code in the cloud, it does exactly that. So let's go to our awesome self-host document README and see what are the options we have. So let's go to the top, and I think it's under software development, IDE. Okay. And as you can see here, we have Code Server. This is a project that basically lets you run VS Code in the browser, in the cloud, hosted on a remote server. So let's click on that and check it out. Code Server, VS Code on any machine, anywhere, and access it from the browser. This is actually amazing because I can then just use my iPad, right? If I want to code anything, I just pull up my iPad, go to my cloud server, open up my VS Code in the cloud, and go from there, right? Super easy. So let's go through, look at the requirements, install script. So they do have a custom install script, but what I want to do is install it using Docker. So let's see if there are some options to install it through Docker. Let me just Google that real quick. Install code server using Docker. Docker here. Okay. So it looks like we have to run two scripts. The first one is making a directory. Easy enough. Let's do that. We're going to first make a directory, and then we're going to do a Docker run. And as you can see here, this is listening on port 8080 of the local host. We do want everybody to have access to it from our IP address, so we can't specify the IP here, because if we do, then only people who are already on our cloud server, like from within the cloud server, can access it, because it's kind of like the local host IP. So let's just remove that piece and run the script. Let's take a look. Let's remove that piece and run. So what this is going to do is pull the code server Docker image and then create a container from it using a configuration we've specified from the documentation. And as you can see here, they do support tons of other ways of installing it. So definitely check it out if you're interested. Okay. All right, cool. And as you can see here, HTTP server is listening on port 8080, and let's go to it. Let me grab my IP one more time, port 8080. And we need a password. Okay, so for the password, we actually need to get it from this file, looks like. So I can do a cat. Cat. Let's see if the file exists. File does not exist. Let's take a look then. Maybe we can disable authentication since I don't know the password. Let me make sure the code server is still running. Okay, it's no longer running. That might be a problem. So let's run it one more time. why don't I open a new terminal here? Let me look through the documentation here. Configuration, usage, install requirements, Google Cloud, install, config. Your password is in the config. Okay, so the password is in the config. Let's go to it one more time, see if we can find the password. Then copy this command, run it. Okay, it's already being used. This is also a common thing that happens. If you try to run the Docker run one more time with the same name and you have run it before, you have to remove the previous stopped container, which is right here. So let's do Docker remove code server. And then now we should be able to run it one more time. Okay, and we have our default configuration file. Let's see if I can get access to that password. I would really love to see that password. Okay. Okay, let's go to Portainer. I can actually do this. Run. Okay, cool. So with Portainer, it makes interacting with the containers so easy. And as you can see here, we have our code server container, and there is an icon here that looks like a console, right? Console terminal. If I click on it and just hit connect, I am now connected to the application or the system that is running within the Docker container. And then I can print out like the password if I needed to. So let me just click on that and copy the password and log into Coder. With that, I have a VS Code in the cloud. Let me pick a color theme, dark. There it goes. No, let me try a different one, maybe modern dark. Okay, there it is. And this is basically a VS Code in the cloud. You can edit any files you want. You can use all the command line tools. You can open terminal if you'd like to execute code within the Coder command line. And the best part is you have the compute power of the cloud server because you're actually running a VS Code server on the cloud, right? On your cloud server. So all I have to do is to just go to this URL anytime I want to work on a project, and it will just be from any computer, really. Like if I use my iPad or my laptop, or if I go to a friend's house, all I have to do is go to my cloud server, VS Code in the cloud, go to the project, and I have everything I need to work on a project. It also has like full-fledged extension support and all the features that comes with a desktop VS Code. So highly recommend it if you are looking to code in the cloud. All right, cool. So I think that's pretty much it for our self-hosting app. Now that I've showed you how to look through some of the available options, I didn't get to all these topics. I know we did blogging, we did uptime monitor, we did URL shortener, we did VS Code in the cloud and password manager, all within an hour, right? That is pretty fast, pretty quick deployment. I would say. But feel free to go out and explore some of the other amazing self-hosting options out there. Like, you can really do a lot with free, amazing open source programs and software that are designed for every aspect of your life. Pretty much. And if you have any questions, please feel free to drop in chat. So some of the key takeaways this session are, like, we learned about Portainer, how we can use it to manage, to visualize and containers and to connect to containers directly using the terminal feature. We learned about the self-hosting options. I showed you the document, the README, and we deployed 5 different applications within an hour. And we were able to access all those applications, publicly access those applications on the web using our IP address. For our next session, we are going to learn about how to securely access those apps using the custom domain through Cloudflare. If you don't already have a domain, definitely check out the Global Hack Week website. We have some coupon codes for Google, or so for GoDaddy registry domains that you can get a free domain with. And we also have some Cloudflare, like, challenges related to Cloudflare, like signing up for Cloudflare. So if you would like to learn about how to securely access your apps using your custom domain, HTTPS, through Cloudflare Tunnel, definitely check out my session, Docker 103. And let me see if I can find the registration link in case you're interested. This is going to be on day 5, Docker 103. So I am going to share that in the chat. Feel free to register if you're interested in this session. Lastly, here are some resources. I added Awesome Self-Hosted here. I shared the slides last time, but let me just paste it in chat one more time in case you would like to refer back to some of the slides. And with that, thank you so much for being here. I hope you learned something new. Some of these self-hosting options are so powerful, and I hope this made you a little bit more comfortable with playing with the cloud server, deploying applications. And in the future, in our next session, we're going to learn about really making them accessible from anywhere or from the web using HTTPS and Cloudflare. With that, have a good rest of your day, and we will see you next time.